hello there, and welcome everyone. Welcome to week 16. Can you believe that? We are in the 16th week of Hathor hosts. I mean, I'm absolutely staggered that we are in the 16th week. I can't believe it. Anyway, I do have to say, welcome everyone. I'm very excited about tonight. It's nice to be back on a format that I have a little more control over. I just want to point out, look at my beautiful roses from my garden. And also, I see Level 28 Toys is on here. You can see my gorgeous Hathor doll who has got pride of place. So I am so chuffed with her. She's absolutely amazing. I don't know if you guys saw the video when she arrived. I'm hoping Musetta hasn't done a live before. Anything can happen. So let's see. Fantastic. She's joined. So I am going to just accept that. And fingers crossed we'll be on our way. It's so It's so lovely to see you all. And it's connecting now. Yay!
Oh, I see. Oh, okay, let me adjust. I see half my head's cut off. Oh, okay, let me see if this is better. There you go. Let me lift this up. Wow. Hello. Good to see you.
It's very good to see you too. And welcome. And how lovely to have you on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. Very much appreciate it.
Now, the picture here on my end is a bit pixelated. Is it? There we go. It's sort of settling down.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to see what would work best here. Mm-hmm. How is this? Can you still see me?
Good. Yeah. I mean, it's always hit and miss with Instagram. I have to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's my first one, so it's my first Instagram interview.
Instagram live virgin, everyone. We will be kind.
Be kind. Be gentle.
I promise I will be. Well, thank you so much for giving us your time and for joining us. And I'm just going to jump right on in. Are you comfortable?
Sure. Let's do it. Why not?
So, jy is of Suid-Afrikaanse meisie. Ek en jy both.
Ja, heeltemal Afrikaans.
And so you were born in Durban in South Africa.
I was born in Durban in South Africa. I was born and raised there. I pretty much grew up on the beach. And of course, we lived a little bit further inland. So every weekend I was at the beach and I loved it. So that's why I'm still a beach junkie to this day.
Lovely. Yes, perfect to live in LA, I was going to say. It's like a good transition.
Yes.
Yes. And so what were you like as a child?
Well, interesting question. I was a very independent child and I was a very rebellious child. Yeah. I was fiercely independent. And when I was 4, actually a very interesting story. When I was 4, I tried to move out to get my own apartment. I had a great childhood. I had this idea and I felt like I was much older inside of me than 4 years old. And because I could understand all the adult conversation, I had to pretend I didn't get the jokes. If there was a dirty joke, I had to pretend I didn't get it. So one day I took my little flower suitcase and I marched downstairs to the kitchen where my mom and my grandma were. And I said, okay, you're not going to understand this, but inside of me, I am much older than 4 years old and you need to help me get my own apartment. And they were like, whoa, it's the funniest thing we've ever heard. And they're like, really? And how are you going to pay for this apartment? They were entertaining this ridiculous notion. So I said, well, that's where you come in. Because obviously I'm 4, you would have to rent the apartment for me and pay for it. But I promise I will pay you back when I'm old enough and I'm working. And they were howling. They entertained me with some other questions. And finally I said, listen, don't be silly. Go upstairs and unpack. And I was so upset that they didn't understand that I ran upstairs and I flung my little flower suitcase across the room. And I fell on the bed crying because I wanted my own apartment. Not because there was anything wrong in the family. I was just fiercely independent. I always wanted to be independent.
And you've always had this kind of wanderlust to travel and clearly started at a very, very, very early age.
Very. I mean, we would go for hikes because I didn't grow up with TV, right? Yeah. So nature was my reality. And my friend Kiki and I, we would go into the forests next to the house, and we would go on adventures and safaris, and we were like queen of the jungle, and we would go in with the monkeys, and you know how it is in South Africa. It's very earthy. So there was a natural part for me to do that.
So, and your mum was a ballet teacher, wasn't she? So there was dance in the house from a very, very early age, and you yourself are still, I imagined, a very accomplished dancer. Did you do loads of ballets as a kid?
Yes. No, well, loads of ballets. Well, I did Giselle, I did Capelia when I was very young. I was dancing most of my life. You know, I'm a qualified ballet teacher, but it's a very disciplined art, and I loved it. But as I was growing up, there wasn't really much of a market for dance unless you wanted to go into like the strict ballet companies, and you have to be like rail thin. And I like life, you know, I like to eat, I like to go out. I don't want to be like emaciatedly thin. And there was more work in the commercial field. So I went into commercial dancing, and that's why I became a professional dancer and worked on a different commercial side of dancing.
And that's what took you to Johannesburg, right? Sort of working up took you to the Big Smoke.
No. We were originally in Durban, then my dad got transferred. And he got transferred to Johannesburg, and that's how I ended up in Joburg. And it was just a natural progression, how I ended up in the dance because of my mom, of course. But Joburg I was kicking and screaming in Joburg because I did not want to leave the ocean. Yeah. You know, so you have to really like unhinge me and take me there, because I wanted to go swimming, be in the sun.
But I am sure, I sort of feel like, I wonder now, because we didn't know each other then, if our paths maybe crossed at some point in South Africa, because you ended up hosting telemusic, right? You were sort of like, so for people who aren't familiar, it was a music program, kind of like, I mean, MTV doesn't even exist anymore now, does it?
Right.
Music television, and you were like the VJ, sort of the sexy young woman who was fronting the show. And I'm sure, because it was about the same time that I was hosting for another channel, and no doubt our paths must have crossed, but you know, who knows?
You know, the weird thing is you don't realize until much later that your path has actually crossed with somebody else. And the fact that we never met is amazing. But I left South Africa pretty early, so I've been here much longer than I've been there. Yeah.
That's true. You left quite early on. And speaking of how you left, so you're hosting this program, and one night a gentleman sees you on television and goes, wow, she's amazing. And this changes the trajectory of your whole life. Tell us what happened.
Well, it's really weird. And I definitely do believe in destiny. I don't believe there's any coincidences in life. I think you have like this cosmic appointment book. And at certain times in your life, you're going to cross paths with exactly whoever you need to cross paths with, because you have some karmic experience to work out between the two of you. So he was an actor at that time. This is my ex-husband. He was an actor at the time in South Africa, and he was watching TV one night, and he saw me hosting telemusic. Okay, so I don't know which thing I was hosting, but I was asked by the show to please go to the opening of the Thunderdome to represent telemusic. Obviously, it's a music show. Remember the Thunderdome?
I do. Many a night at the Thunderdome.
Yeah, so it was opening night at the Thunderdome. I had to go to the Thunderdome. And, you know, I was like, okay, it was great. I'll go to the Thunderdome. And I was there. I took my friends, and I didn't want to stay. I wanted to go back out and go have dinner and stuff. And they're like, no. We went out to have dinner. We came back. I was like, okay, all right, go back to the Thunderdome. And I came down the staircase, and he came around the corner, and he bumped into, he goes, I just saw you on TV. Because the show was at 6 o'clock, and this was probably now 10 o'clock. Yeah. And I thought he was full of nonsense, because this is an American actor, and I'm in South Africa, and he's watching telemusic, and I'm Afrikaans, so it doesn't make any sense. Described everything I wore. And the weird thing was that as he was watching telemusic, the production company slipped a piece of paper under the door that said, you have been invited to the opening of the Thunderdome with all the cast of the movie that they were shooting there. You know how they invite actors to go to events? They invited all the actors, and so he got the piece of paper while he was watching me on the TV, but not knowing anything about the Thunderdome, just coincidentally. And then I ended up going to, the Thunderdome that night, and there it was. I met him. Right. So it was wild. And he goes, I just saw you on TV. And I'm like, yeah, sure. He goes, no, I did. You wore this, this, and this, and you acted like that. And I was like, wow, this guy actually watched the show. It was wild.
But more than that, he watched the show, and very quickly you fell in love with each other, and you end up going to LA. So there you are. But before you go, in my research, looking you up and all that, I discovered you and I have some very freaky crossover people in common and things. And we have a credit in common, which absolutely floored me, which was one of those Holly Felt movies that were made, those direct-to-video movies that were made in the 80s in South Africa, in Johannesburg.
Which one?
It's Murphy's Fault.
Oh, that is so funny.
How funny is that?
That is so funny. That is, you see, there's 6 degrees of separation. It's like, and here we are all these years later doing an interview together. I mean, it's like destiny, right? It's just,
I mean, I couldn't believe it.
That's
I was like,
so funny.
What? Because actually it was my first kind of break, because I dropped out of drama school and my parents were furious with me, and I still desperately wanted to act. So I was like, I still want to be an actress. And I'd auditioned for this film playing an extra. We had to be groupies, like punk rock groupies. So not my casting. But at the audition, they said, can any of you do an American accent? And I was like, yep, I can. And she said to me, well, give me something. And I was like, well, sure, I could be American, whatever you want. I'm like, I could come from California, whatever. Anyway, that was that. Didn't get the job. And then I guess whatever happened, they hired somebody and they were unhappy with her. And Krista Schamberger remembered me and went, there is this kid who I think could do it. And I ended up playing the lead actor's sister. So I sort of went from having no dialogue and being a groupie to actually having a role, which was quite bizarre. And you were in it.
How amazing. Yeah, I think I was a dancer in that movie, but I can't remember. I believe it was a dancer. It had some dance routine, some like potash thing where I was flung around.
I mean, it's too funny. Anyway, so you get on a plane, you go to Los Angeles, there you are on the Gatkant van die Aarde, on the other side of the world. And how did you adjust initially? Did you find that very difficult?
No, I didn't. I find LA very similar to South Africa. So I don't find LA very different from South Africa in the sense that it was a same language. We were all speaking English. I was in the entertainment business. And plus, my husband was in the same business as me. So it was a very easy transition for me into it. And, I didn't have to I loved it because it was faster paced. Because as I told you, when I was young and I wanted to be independent and all of this, I also knew that one day I would live in a country far away from where I was born. I don't know how, I just always knew. It was this intuitive knowledge that I had. I wasn't sure, I didn't even know where, but I always felt that one day I would travel a lot and probably not live where I was. It's just intuition kind of feeling. So for me, when I got here, I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved the speed of everything. I loved that I could be outside in nature. I loved that I was in the entertainment business. I can go to the beach. I can go to the mountain. It had everything I loved.
Yeah.
So,
and you didn't have to wait very long before you started working, because you kind of launched straight into being. Now, I mean, I guess this is sort of showing our age a little bit, but like in the 90s, everything was about the music video. Like people forget. And again, I had such fun watching some of these videos, but you ended up being cast in some amazingly high profile music videos. Elton John, Alice Cooper, Tina Turner, Chris Isaac, Rod Stewart. And you were always like the babe, the beauty, the dream girl. Tell us how those came about.
I think during that time, when I came here first, my first experience here was obviously as a dancer. So I got myself a dance agent, and all the music videos were always looking for dancers. So, and I guess the modeling agencies as well, but can't remember if it was the modeling agency or the dance agency that sent me in, but I'd go in for the audition and they would always make the girls move. Yeah. And I was a full-on dancer. I mean, so moving for me was like no problem. Yeah. I could, I had that advantage over somebody else who couldn't move and dance or make the body do whatever they wanted
Yeah.
to do. And so I was just very fortunate. And also I think I had a very exotic look to them at that time, with the black hair and the bangs. And that was kind of the music video thing. It was very much that edgy, feeling.
Yeah, and
so
you could act. I mean, like the Tina Turner one, I was having a look at it, and there's, it's not just standing around looking gorgeous and glamorous, because you could do that. It was.
oh gosh, thank you.
Well, still.
Yeah. Please.
Yes, I
Yeah,
only
no,
dance
I mean,
under duress,
that
I'm
was
afraid,
actually
so.
well, it's interesting you mentioned that Tina Turner, because I don't know if you noticed whose head I was shaving in the bathtub. It was Jaimin Hansu.
No.
Yes. As a matter of fact, that music, you should see it because it's amazing.
I'm going to go back and
that
look, 'cause I watched it yesterday.
Yeah, that music video was made, I don't know how many years ago now, probably going back like almost 30 years or so. I don't know, at least actually 10 years ago. But
Last year.
yeah, and all the couples were multiracial. And that video actually didn't play in America for a very long time. Yeah, played in Europe.
Wow.
And only much later did that music video come to America and play here.
God, that's extraordinary.
But it's Jaimin. It's Jaimin's whose head I'm shaving in the bathtub.
I mean, I wasn't looking at his face. I was too busy looking at the half-naked body, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah, I totally understand.
I particularly loved also the Rod Stewart one, where you were doing all the kind of like 60s things and the gorgeous outfits and that. It was fantastic. And always the sort of like
I love that.
The trio of women, didn't they? They sort of had like the dark-haired girl, the blonde-haired girl, and never a ginger.
Oh, that's too funny. Yeah, it was really funny because they would always have, like a combination of looks or types, and I had to wear that black wig, but my actual hair was exactly like that. So I never figured out, why do I have to wear the wig? It's like exactly my hair.
Well, you changed tack completely for your next job, because your next job was a play called Soweto's Burning, obviously a South African piece. How did that it sounds like a very political play as well. How did that piece come to you in Los Angeles?
Well, my husband and I at the time, ex-husband and I at the time, were looking for a piece of material that I could do. I wanted to do a play, and somehow the script came to us, Soweto's Burning. And it was about an interracial relationship in South Africa during the height of apartheid. So we thought, this is really great. It's very topical. I think we were the first play into the Hudson backstage.
Wow.
So it was a very emotionally charged play. And it was actually exhausting doing that play every night, going through all this emotion and the drama. But it was wonderful. It was well received. It was a perfectly timed play as far as the subject matter, and that helped me get my first agent.
Oh, fantastic.
That's pretty much why I did it.
Yeah.
Because nobody knew who I was, and I didn't really know where to go for an agent as far as that. So I wanted to show some work, and I wanted to put up a showcase that they could come and see my work.
And it paid off, and it ended up being, I think, sort of 5 weeks or something, the pick of the Times, the LA Times, which for a play in Movie Central is like unheard of. So that is amazing.
Yeah, it was it was amazing.
And so you got an agent. You what?
We both like froze there. Like,
I know, it's like, oh, it's so annoying when it does that. It's always at the point where somebody's like in the middle of something really juicy, and you're like, what? So your first break came. Yeah, thank you. Your first kind of big break in Los Angeles was in Superforce, in which you played a character called Xander Tyler. I absolutely loved, because this is not a show I've seen before, but I absolutely loved that the show is set in 2020, and the tagline, or one of the taglines, was, "In 2020, times are tough." I was like, how did they know?
I know. Until you mentioned that, I didn't even realize it was set in 2020, because at that point, 2020 seemed like so far away. When will we ever be in 2020? But oh my gosh, here we are, and what a disaster it has been so far.
It's not been our best year, that's for sure.
I know, really.
But so tell us a little bit
and that show,
about what Superforce was and how the role came to you.
Oh, there's a really funny story with that, with how I got the role. I went to audition. I went to audition for Super Force. It was one of my earlier auditions, and I got the job. And my agent called me. He's very excited. And he says, "Oh, by the way, you booked this job. It's a recurring role on this TV show, and it starts shooting. And you're gonna leave for Miami or wherever we were shooting. We were shooting Orlando, Florida. You're gonna leave for Orlando, Florida to shoot it, and you're gonna leave on this day." And I was like, "What day?" And he tells me, and I'm like, "No, but I can't go that day. We're going to Hawaii." Okay, because I didn't understand how actually hard it is to get a job, you know. So I was like, it's my first job. So I said, "No, I can't go. I'm going to Hawaii with my husband." So I came home and I said to my husband, "Oh, you know that show I auditioned for? I got the job, but it's when we go to Hawaii, and I didn't want us to lose, you know, everything we did for the trip. So I said, I can't do it." And he goes, "Are you insane? Call him back and tell him you want the job." So, and when I finally went back there and I met the producer, he goes, "Oh, I see you changed your mind. You left Hawaii. Thank you for joining us." I had no idea it was,
but
it was this.
So it must have been quite an interesting way to cut your teeth, because you were a recurring character. So not just like a one-off, you know, in and out kind of thing. And that is equally fantastic because you learn a lot, but it's also the pressure's on because you have to deliver and learn. And I think sometimes, as you said, like there were loads of things when I left drama school that because I dropped out, that I didn't know. I had to kind of learn the hard way. I had to learn on a set in a real environment, you know.
Yeah, you know, I think I have this fearless, afraid of pretty much. I'm not afraid. Like I'll walk into wherever and I don't have a fear. Yeah, I have to learn whatever it is I have to do there, whatever the job's going to require me to do. But I never feel like, it depends on the show. At that point, when naivety was very big and I didn't even understand that I got this recurring role, I was fearless. I was like, "What do you want me to do? Go here? Okay, no problem. We're now there. Okay, fine."
Yeah.
You know, sometimes ignorance is wonderful.
Exactly. Yeah. Ignorance is bliss in the beginning, isn't it? The next thing I wanted to talk about was Oblivion, which looked like an absolute hoot, a sort of campy sci-fi western starring the wonderful George Takei. So what was that like, working with the man himself?
That was amazing. We shot that movie in Romania just after the fall of Ceausescu. We were the first movie that went into Romania after the fall of Ceausescu.
Wow.
And we spent 3 months there shooting Oblivion and Backlash back to back. And it was very interesting because we stayed in this hotel called the Lebeda. And I would go down, for example, we'll get to George Takei for sure, but this was so bizarre because we would go down to the dinner in the hotel. And they had these old beds that were like sunken, and the curtains were like very smoky and like, you know, like never been washed kind of thing. But anyway, we stayed at the Lebeda. I would go downstairs, would order food. So the guy would come and say, "Oh, what do you want to eat?" I go, "Okay, I'll have chicken." More chicken. I go, "Okay, beef?" "No beef." I go, "All right, vegetables?" He goes, "Potatoes." Because seriously, because during that time, it was so hard to get the food from the countryside to the city that the food was very sparse. Okay, so it was very limited in what you could eat and what you could get. So I had a lot of potatoes. I was in great shape because I couldn't have access to things. So when you finally find a chocolate or anything or a restaurant that had any other variety of food, it was amazing. But coming back to George, it was a blast. It was amazing. He had the funniest lines like, "Jim, beam me up," because he was like an alcoholic, and he was so generous and so kind and so sweet, and it was so amazing to work with such a legendary character and person. So
and you had to do some very, very interesting handiwork with a whip. I have to say, I had sort of whip envy. How long did it take to perfect all that stuff?
Well, I was trained here. I don't know if you remember. What was the movie Michelle Pfeiffer did with Catwoman? Anyway, which did a lot of whip work. I had the same guy that trained her to train me in whip, how to use the whip. So I would stand here in a park in LA with the whip with this guy, and we would be cracking the whip and spinning the whip, and the traffic as they would drive by, like, what are they doing? You know, because you had to learn how to use that whip, because when that thing cracks and it snaps like that, it can really injure you if it hits you back. You know, if it flips back and hits you. So I learned how to use a whip, and to this day, I can still crack a whip.
Well, that was my next question, and I was going to ask, did you ever have any whip mishaps, so to speak? Like, did you ever injure yourself, or God forbid, anyone else?
No, fortunately not. But in the beginning, I think when I was first learning, sure, I definitely whacked myself here and there.
Well, what an amazing skill to have, and the fact that you can still do it is amazing, I think. You know?
Well, I stand corrected, because it's been a very long time since I had an actual whip in my hands, but I used to be able to do a few things with that whip.
I'm sure it's like riding a bike.
Well, you would hope, right?
We're just going to get you a whip now. Somebody will be coming to you.
Thank you.
Musetta, you've appeared on so many beloved and hugely popular sci-fi and fantasy shows. Babylon 5, Star Trek Voyager, Stargate, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Xena Warrior Princess, and Highlander, just to name a few. Are you a fan of the genres? Or were you a fan before working in them? Or are you not a fan?
That's funny. Yeah, no, I've always been a fan. I like sci-fi. For me, sci-fi is not such an unusual thing at all. It's not so far-fetched to me. You know, the scope and the premise of sci-fi. However, did I know anything about that genre when I first came here? No, I kind of fell into that genre because of my accent. I had an accent. I looked kind of exotic. They didn't know really where to place me, and so where else but in the sci-fi genre? So they stuck me in there. I became like, because you couldn't really place the accent, and I was like, they didn't really know where to put me. So they ended up sending me in for all these sci-fi auditions. And once I stepped into that world, it just kind of picked up its own momentum.
Did you find learning an American accent difficult, or was that something?
Yes.
Did you? That's so interesting.
Yes, I did, because it was a hard adjustment for me in the beginning. It was just, I think maybe because I didn't really watch a lot of TV. So, and I'm a very fast speaker. And so the American accent's a little bit more lazy, going to be more relaxed and slower. So I really had to adjust that. So it took me a bit of time. And also, once you go into a room and you meet somebody and they hear the accent, they always think of you with the accent. And these are all the things that you don't think about or really, consider when you're going in for your first meeting to meet some big casting director who goes, oh, I love her, but she's got an accent. And I'm like, wait, but I can do an American accent.
Exactly.
But once they have that in their head, it's to change perception is always a difficult,
a challenge,
or more difficult. It's more of a challenge.
Yeah,
yes.
I absolutely agree. I never battled with the accent. I could do it. And I got to a point in LA.
How did you learn to do that like that? Just from South Africa? Did you always, what was the thing that made you?
I've always been quite good with accents. I've got a good ear. I've always said this because I'm terrible with numbers. So I have one gift, and that is that I can do accents and voices. I don't always know why it's wrong or right, but I can hear immediately when it's off.
Right.
And that's been really helpful. But interestingly, when I moved here, everyone was like, you have to be British. You cannot sound American. Well, you can if you're going in for an American thing. But if you sound South African, nobody will employ you as a British person. And I was like, that's so ridiculous, because I'm an actor. What difference does it make how I actually speak? Nicole Kidman has quite a strong Australian accent when she speaks. But it's quite Blanchett. It's quite, it comes through like that. And I was like, but they can hide it when they need to. That's the point, surely, of being an actor.
Right.
But I had to work much harder on being English than I had to be on American. And today here, I work 90% of the time I work as an American in voice work. Nearly all my voice work here is American, which, go figure.
Isn't that weird?
It's so weird.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You just don't know how it's going to go, because it's such a bizarre. See, I never had that problem as far as the South African accent. That they encouraged me to have the accent, because they said that gives you a niche. area. So I was like, okay, if I have an audition, I'm going to stay in that. And then when I would go in and audition for the American, and then afterwards talk to them, and I have an accent, they're like, wait, you're not American.
Exactly.
And in their brains, you know, it does something
Yeah.
to somebody. So,
and I think it's, you know, I mean, I think it's getting better now, but you have mastered it now, and it certainly has not stopped you working at all. So I wanted to chat very briefly. I just wanted to touch on Buffy, because it was such a kind of iconic show in the 90s. And it's not every day that one plays a praying mantis who gets to rip off the heads of young men. So that episode was quite amazing. And when they did the thing with where your head goes all the way around, how did you, how did they do that?
Well, that was, wow, looking back at that now, that was in the early stages of, you know, special effects. And literally, I mean, looking at it today and then it's like day and night. They just had me stand on a little on a platform. Then I guess I would just turn my head one way and then go the other way and turn my head the other way. And that was it. And they would just after in post put it together, you know, so it wasn't like a very difficult thing to do at all. But yeah, I don't know.
Were you aware of the show's huge success when you auditioned for it?
No, because I did the first season of Buffy. So it was in the very first season of Buffy. We had no idea what was going to happen to the show or anywhere. I loved the script. I loved the character. I loved the idea of it all. And, you know, there was a strong woman playing in it. So I liked all of that. So it was I instantly gravitated towards the role.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're very good at sort of sexy, sassy villains. Do you like playing villains?
Well, I can say this, that playing a villain is definitely more fun than playing the straight guy. You can really go much further playing a villain than you can playing somebody who is just a regular person. However, is that my preference? No, not really. I mean, I'm open to everything. You know, as an actor, you're like a palette. So I like everything. I like drama. I like comedy. I like the good guy. I like the bad guy. Whatever. You know, I like variety. Yeah. So yeah, I enjoy villains, but it gets to the point. Some people always go, "Oh, you should play the villain." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm kind of tired of playing the villain. I want to play something else." You know. So
yeah, exactly.
But
you want to do it all.
Yeah. We do.
Well, you followed that up with a turn on Babylon 5, and you worked with the wonderful Claudia Christian, who was on this show recently. Who did you play on Babylon 5?
I played, I'm always part of the resistance. I'm always fighting somebody, running away. Kind of, interestingly enough, kind of what I do in life. I'm always like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this. Yeah. So I was part of the underground resistance, and I was leading them away from some faded direction they would have gone if they didn't connect with me. So it was only a small role that I had in that show. So it's so far back that I can't remember too much detail of that. You know, it was like, because you come in and you work for like a day or two. As this character, and then you were gone.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and then you don't see that show till so much later. And
yeah, and also, because you know, we've talked about this before on the show, that sometimes being a guest star is quite a lonely experience, because you kind of come in and the day players, the guys who are there all the time, the regulars are, you know, they're tight with each other, and it's a weird thing sometimes because you don't want to be like, hey guys, but equally, you know, it's a fine balance, I think. But one of the things I remember Claudia saying was that it was such an extraordinary thing filming in this great big warehouse that had been built for that. Do you have any sort of memories? I mean, it's fine if you don't.
I do remember, yes, I do remember we were in a very big warehouse. I do remember it being a little bit out of town. Yeah. You know, like I said, I wasn't there, unfortunately, very long. I did meet Claudia there. And since that time, our paths have crossed many, many times, which is... It's so funny, which is, again, that cosmic calendar that you have, you know, that karmic appointment book where you meet all these people and you keep meeting them, like me and you. So, I remember them being very gracious and very nice to work with. And I think they made me feel very comfortable. And I like that. I've always had really good experiences coming into a set or meeting people for the first time. I never really felt that I was excluded, you know, or pushed away or anything like that. So it was
good. A happy experience.
I'm too pushy to be pushed away. I'm like in your face. Let me just turn this here.
Oh, she's off.
I'm just trying to open the window. Am I gone? 1 second.
Okay. No, it's all right. Don't worry. So I feel we have to talk about, because it's come up loads already while we've been chatting, about Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which in which you played Queen Sindel. Sindel, is that how you say it?
Sindel.
Sorry.
Sindel.
Sorry.
No problem.
Were you aware of the game before you got the job?
No.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't. I had no idea. I knew I had when I auditioned for it, I found out that this was a game and that it was a very popular game and that people followed it. Yes. And then I see Queen Sindel. Yes, hello. It's Queen Sindel. And then I went and I studied who she was. And I loved her because she was strong and she was, you know, take charge kind of woman. So I was like, oh, I like this one. And yeah, then I went into audition for her, and I was just super fortunate to have been able to, you know, get that job.
To be part of that.
Because it was an amazing, wow, it was an amazing experience. Just not only the job, but the locations and where we went.
So where did you go? Because you love traveling, and I know you got to travel extensively on that job.
Yeah. We started in England, and before I joined, they were already in Wales.
Right.
And so we were in England for about a month. And of course, I was everywhere. To Stonehenge every day off. I'm like, what's on the books? Where can I go? Stonehenge! I'll be gone. You know, so we stayed there for a month, and then we went to Petra, Jordan.
Wow.
And we shot in Petra, Jordan for about 2 or 3 weeks, I'm not sure, which was an incredible experience because I had a lot of downtime in Petra, Jordan. I don't know if you've ever been to Petra.
No.
I highly recommend anybody go see Petra. It is incredible. It's this ancient city, like what's known as the hidden city, and it's literally carved out of the mountain, and it looks like the Greek amphitheaters. I mean, it's like an entire city. If you look at it from the top, you could never see it because it was known as the hidden city. But when you go through the SIG, you know, where Harrison Ford rides and it goes through that crack and it opens up in this whole world, that is really what it looks like. It was incredible. Wow. So every opportunity I had to go explore, I had my camera and I was off. You were off to go see it. But yes, there was the part where I had to, one day I had to get on the horseback and we ride in, and I have to do that shriek that Sindel does.
Yes.
I was on the horse, and then I had to do this like shriek across this valley. And I mean, honestly, it reverberated through the canyons and across this amazing landscape that my whole body, when I screamed like that, gave me like chills because it was so weird. The energy was so intense that and
did you actually have to do that screech over and over? I mean, like, that's quite vocally a big thing to do.
No, I think I kind of
I don't know if you heard
did
me.
it twice. Yes, I did. Yeah.
Wow.
I only did it like twice at that point. I mean, it was, I mean, you know, when you're in a canyon, you scream like that, how it echoes. I mean, that scream reverberated through the canyon. So I was like, I scared myself.
How extraordinary. And also she kills people with her hair, right? So, I mean, post-lockdown, my husband has said about the same thing about me, that I could probably kill people with my hair at the moment. But how did they do that? Did you have to wear tons of wigs and shake your head around, or was that kind of added in post?
No, I had a lot of hair, but the actual, I wore a whole wig. I mean, it was somebody's hair, literally. It was so long, and it was like you're wearing somebody's entire hair that they'd grown their entire life. It was really weird. Wow. The wig was specially made in London, you know, and for special measurements, so it fit perfectly and stuff. And But the extensions, when I flip the head like that and how it goes like that, that's all post.
Wow. Well, it was very effective.
That was all done in post.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
Thank you.
Your next two jobs were both big milestones in your career, because one was a major Hollywood blockbuster and the other an absolute iconic sci-fi series. So let's start with Star Trek Voyager. And I love that you played the love interest to one of my upcoming guests, Garrett Wang, who will be on the show in a couple of weeks' time. Tell us a little bit about your time on Voyager and stepping onto that iconic set or show.
Okay, well, that was quite intimidating, because that show, I knew those people had worked together forever. And the dialogue, with a sci-fi show like that, you're not saying normal things like, hey, I went to the store today and I saw John. You like saying the subspace vacuum near planet Eureka is in gravitational orbit, and it's really hard dialogue to learn. Plus you're stepping into a very well-groomed and oiled machine that work together flawlessly. So that was a little intimidating to work on that show. Well, they were amazing. They're very, very kind to me. Garrett is amazing. It was a doll to work with. It made me feel super comfortable. I remember sitting in the wardrobe trailers before going in to shoot in the morning, and they would come in with a new dialogue. Here you go, some new dialogue for you. And I was like, so all these words I've never heard of. I don't even know how you say them. Because it's all sci-fi words about planets and movements of galaxies. And so that was definitely a more intimidating entrance. As opposed to my very first one, I was like, okay, no problem. I want me to do this, that.
Yeah.
Now I became aware of all the proper protocol and etiquette and all that stuff.
And also, it's a show that's got such a passionate and loyal fan base that you don't want to get it wrong, kind of thing.
Yes, exactly.
And what was the amazing Kate Mulgrew like to work with? I'm such a huge fan of her work.
She's an amazing actor. Actually, one of my very first jobs I did with Kate Mulgrew called Murder, She Wrote.
Ah, yes.
I did Murder, She Wrote, and she played my boss. And that's kind of where I started seeing, exactly. Where I started seeing like the power of, really good actors, because she played my boss and I walked in and it was about a sexual harassment case, and this guy was harassing me on the job, and I went to complain to my boss, and the way she would talk to me and look at me, she's like, so what? Is it like a sexual harassment case you're trying to pursue? What is the problem? And I was like, well, no problem. It was so easy to act off of her, because she just made you produce natural emotion.
Yeah.
I love Kate. So that was my first experience working with her, a really strong woman. And I liked her energy a lot. And then when I saw her on Stargate, it was wonderful, because of course she would be the captain. Yeah. She has a commanding presence. When you work with her, you feel that.
Star Trek.
Yeah. Did I say something else?
It sounded like you said Stargate from here, but it might have just been.
No, Star Trek. Sorry. No, Star Trek. Yeah.
What show is this? What day are we? Who are we?
Who am I? Is this 2020? Because I'm not sure. I haven't lived it yet.
The next job I wanted to chat about is absolutely epic, because you were directed by one of my all-time favorite directors, which is Barry Sonnenfeld, who, before he became a director, was a brilliant director of photography and filmed When Harry Met Sally, which is one of my all-time favorite films. Of course, Wild Wild West with the brilliant Will Smith, Kevin Kline, Selma Hayek, and the amazing Kenneth Branagh. Tell us how the role of Munitia found its way to you.
Wow. Okay. So I auditioned for that role, and Ronna Crest was the casting director on that, and I went into audition for Munitia. And I actually, I wanted to audition for the other role, because any actor always wants to audition for, like, I wanted to be like this, the audition for like Selma's part, not understanding really the big, the whole big thing of star names and all of that in film. So because I could do a Spanish accent really easily. So, oh wait, no, I did audition for that role. And then Ronna said, well, I really like you, but Barry really wants somebody who is Hispanic. So this is other role, Munitia. And so I went, got a callback, and I had the callback, and Barry Sonnenfeld is there, and all the people are there, Barry Josephson. And I was super excited when I got the role, just because it's such a massive movie. It was such a big production. And then, like, we were going to do a table reading. We had this big table reading planned for the whole script, and we were at the Equestrian Center down there by Warner Brothers, the entire, producers, directors, studio, network, they all came out to be there for this big epic table reading. And the day before, and I was already nervous because I was going to just read my part. And the day before, the cast and of course, she goes, "Listen, Musetta, Salma can't make it to the table reading. Can you read Salma's role?" And I was like, "What? By tomorrow?" And that was my first entrance into it. Wow. So when I went to go sit down at that table reading, I literally sat down. Across from me was Kenneth Branagh, who was like epic. Yeah. Okay. And there was Will Smith and Kevin Kline, and I was reading with them, and everybody was there. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was pretty intense. And so I got to, because she was working on another project. So I got to work with them for 2 weeks with the rehearsals prior to them. So I worked with Will and Kenneth and Kevin for like 2 weeks prior to the actual shooting, which was an amazing experience.
Yeah, because also I imagine by the time you filmed, you were then kind of in it, you had a relationship with these guys much more so than you maybe would have had if you'd just done Munitia. They got to see a different side of you as well.
It was great. Yeah, because Munitia, has a relatively smaller part in the movie. And so it was great to be part of the rehearsal, and we're having rehearsal time, which is wonderful, especially, when you're playing in a movie of that size.
Yeah.
To have the luxury of rehearsing, which you don't get in the lower budget movies. It's like, okay, ready? Okay, let's go. Yeah. It's just like one take, let's do it.
Did it feel like, were you aware that you were stepping onto like a massive Hollywood A-list project? Was there like just everything bigger, better, faster?
Yes. There was absolutely a day and night difference between going from a lower budget movie to a studio picture, which is everything of the best. The money is no option, problem. You can have the most amazing, cast and crew together. The detail to the wardrobe, the everything. Yeah. It's just on another level. And I mean, just on that movie, just to play Munitia, I trained with weapons for like 3 months.
Wow.
Even though you don't really see me ever use a gun at that thing, but I was trained in handling, I don't know how many different weapons.
But also you had, the set was so kind of gadgety and, this incredible steampunk Western. Did you that must have been incredible, just walking on and seeing the size of these sets and the kind of the money, I guess, that goes into shows like that.
Yes. Look, I mean, it was an overwhelming experience. And sometimes, like when I shot on the shows, like even like a Murder, She Wrote, which was one of the top shows at that time.
It's popular.
Huge. They had also enormous budget, so it was not like I was totally unfamiliar with shows that were really high budgeted as far as the television side. But in the film side, to see the kind of money that was available and the way they would invest in everything that they needed without any issues. And what a luxury.
In terms of direction, what was Barry Sonnenfeld like? Lots of takes, one or two takes? I mean, was he very set on what he wanted, or did he let people kind of play around a bit?
He was, I think he would let you play around a little bit, but he kind of knew what he wanted right away. He would tell you what he wants, and we didn't do many takes. I don't remember doing many takes.
Interesting.
At all, actually. No, I think he knew what he wanted, and also I think because there were a lot of rehearsals beforehand, it was just like on the day you shoot, we do 1 or 2 takes. At least with my part in the film, it might be different for the other characters in the film, but we didn't do. I don't remember doing too many takes.
Yeah. And Kenneth,
we're going back a long time here.
And working with Kenneth Branagh, he's such a delight and so talented.
Amazing, kind, generous, very present when you work with him, very giving. I really had a most incredible experience working on that movie, and with the people that I worked with there, I loved it. I mean, I loved it. It was really fantastic.
Yeah. And a thing to have, like that great thing to have on your CV. And things weren't about to slow down for you, because the new millennium was looming, and you launched into the noughties with 2 major studio films and 2 more roles in 2 beloved and popular sci-fi fantasy series. I'm talking, of course, about Xena, Warrior Princess, and Stargate. That said, I'm looking at the time, and it's 10:02, so I reckon we're either going to have to zoom through these, or if you are free, you could come back and jump on for maybe another 15-20 minutes. Are you around to do that?
Yeah, I mean, stay on or go off and come back.
Great.
Yeah.
So, well, we'll have to go off, because the way Instagram works is they'll cut you off anyway after an hour. I'll get a countdown, but what we can do is just do exactly the same thing and then just finish up, because I reckon we'll be close to the end by then. I need to speak faster.
You're talking too
much.
That's my problem. I think I need to cut shorter.
No, it's so great.
That's hilarious.
So let's talk about Xena first. I mean, the show was a complete institution. I remember when I lived in LA, everyone was talking about Xena, Lucy Lawless. It was like people were obsessed with this show. And again, looking at the clips from your episode, I mean, very not easy to fight and look good in a very skimpy outfit. But like, your fighting skills were very impressive. Like, did they choreograph that like a dance, or?
Yes, they did. Well, thank you first of all, but yes, they did. Everything's choreographed on set. First day there, they taught me the whole choreography of the fighting sequence, and of course, I wanted to be really good in the rehearsal too. So I kicked my leg really high, because I was a dancer, so a really nice roundhouse kick, be lovely, and then I tore my hamstring. Which was lovely on my first kick.
No.
So now I had the entire fight sequence to shoot with a torn hamstring. So if you actually watch that scene closely, that fighting sequence, my leg is bent like a hook, because I can't actually straighten my leg like I had intended to, because I had torn my hamstring. It was in excruciating pain, let me tell you.
I can imagine. Yeah. But you were like, I'm fine. I'm fine.
I'm like, I'm fine. So I'm just knocked her. I'm going to do it. Yeah.
Was it fun working on a show that was sort of so heavily female-led? Because that was quite rare in the 90s. And in particular, your episode, because of Paris Jefferson and Lucy Lawless, there was this great kind of, strong women. And I did you enjoy that?
Yes, I like working with strong women, and that show was very driven with all the women being very potent in power and in strength, and getting what they want and fighting for what they want. And I like that a lot, because I feel that women have a lot of power. And I just it was a great show to be part of, even though it was so long ago. It was one of the few shows where women were really powerful.
Yeah.
And that's why it was, I think, so popular, because there wasn't much else you could find at that time for women in roles that were that powerful.
Yeah. And also, I think it had a really good balance of powerful women, but also quite sexy. Everybody kind of looked great. So there was a little bit of something for everyone.
Exactly. And
still, the thing is, people can still access these shows. So the audiences continue to grow, which is an amazing thing. Like with Stargate, which brings me very nicely to Stargate. So you played Shonak. God, I hope I've said that right, because I've already screwed up Sindel. Is that right? Shonak?
Shonak. Sorry, I also got the name. I'm like, what? Shonak, yeah.
I'm a goddess, honey. I don't bother with names.
It doesn't matter how you pronounce it. Any way would be right.
Exactly. So tell us a bit about your audition for Stargate, because you came into it when it had already been established as it was a kind of a hit by then.
Yeah, I just went in for the audition. Okay, I just No, I just went into audition like everybody else. Pretty much everything I ever did, I just auditioned for the roles. And then when I got the show, I was super excited because at that time there was a lot of work going to Vancouver, shooting Vancouver. So because I love traveling, I was like, perfect, I'm doing Stargate and I like Stargates and portals and all those things. And I'm going to Vancouver. It's fantastic. And it's a great show. And I really liked the material. And I also knew the characters because I'd seen them. At this point, I was watching all of these shows. So I was very happy working on that show, seeing Christopher Judge and being with him. He was hilarious, as you well know. So, I was just fortunate. I was just very lucky.
So I was going to say, you were the love interest for Chris. And, Stargate is certainly SG1, absolutely legendary for pranks and jokes. I mean, not that the jokes got in the way of the work. People took their work seriously. They worked hard. But there was a lot of laughter and a lot of fun on set. Were you privy to any of those pranks?
Yes, it was hilarious because I had no idea that was going on, right? So one of my final scenes, or I think my death scene first, one of those scenes was first. So I'm lying dead, my character has died, I'm like in the corpse posture, I'm lying there, and they were filming, at least I think they're filming. And so Chris Judge, unbeknownst to me, has a feather, and he has a feather under my nose, and they're tickling my nose, and they're going up here, and I'm lying dead, corpse posture. I'm like, I'm not going to be moving. I'm staying dead because I'm thinking they're filming. Meanwhile, they're doing all kinds of stuff to my body, okay? And I'm trying to see if I'm going to break, but I just wouldn't break, so finally they gave up. It was hilarious. It was very, very, very funny. And also, there were so many pranks on it because the very first time when I stepped through the portal, and Peter DeLuise was directing the episode, and I walk through the portal and I see Chris Judge, who's my love interest for the first time, and I look over to Chris Judge, and as I look over, Peter DeLuise goes, and now, with fire in your loins, you say?
Oh, that's so brilliant.
I was like, it was hilarious. It was so hard to keep a straight face. It was just so hilariously funny,
Oh my God, I could just imagine that.
Good
too.
times.
And of course, Chris always on his high protein, interesting diets, where he would leave little aromatic gifts for us. I'm talking about his excellent skill at farting.
The onions, because we had a scene where we had to have a kiss and everything like that. So he went and smoked, I don't know how many cigarettes, and ate onions. Okay, so now we're filming and we're getting ready for the kiss, and I'm like, what is that smell, right? It was hilarious, part of the pranking. It's like me lying dead and like having the feather around my nose and everywhere on my body. But so I understand what you went through. It's really funny. But no, I didn't get the farts. I got the stinky breath for the kissing scene.
Oh, I got, endless pranking, which was hilarious, but also fun because that's what they are. They're just fun guys, and really warm and welcoming. And Amanda was, the welcome wagon. Sounds really rude, but she was so warm and welcoming to everyone, I think. So it was a happy experience for you.
Very, very, very happy. It was great. They were super kind. I mean, super nice and welcoming and fun. We had fun. It was nice to have fun and work.
Absolutely. I think that is a perfect place for us to pause because we're going to come back. I'm going to log off and then we're going to do exactly the same thing because it's counting me down.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
So don't go anywhere.
All right, is it? Okay.
I have to just
what do I do? I just stay here?
And I will be back. Okay. Just stay there and then join again like you did before.
Okay, I'll do that.
Stay with us, everyone. Right. I'll be right back. Hello, and welcome to part 2. Part 2. I am just waiting for Musetta to jump back on and we can carry on. We're definitely, I'm finding it harder and harder to do, these interviews in an hour. Because the body of work is so good and there's so much to talk about, and I just feel I don't want to be, rude and dismissive to people and not give them the full time. So here we are. We're back for part 2, And we're going to kick off as soon as Musetta joins. We're going to kick back off with Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, which was her next big film. I'm going to see if I can actually join with her. Don't see her just yet. Musetta. Not happening. Okay. It's telling me that I started a live video. How weird is that? Thanks, Instagram. So, Musetta, are you on here? Because I'm not seeing you at the moment. Anyway, how are we all? How is everybody doing? I feel like we've been in this sort of state of limbo. Hi, Team Hutchins! Yeah, it's such a funny old time it's been, hasn't it, this year? It's just been weird, but how amazing to have had the opportunity to chat to you guys, get to know you better, and to do this wonderful show, even though I've lost Musetta, who seems to have disappeared. She's not coming up now. Musetta, where are you? Musetta, are you better? Where are you? Well, this is a bit worrying. We've got, let's see, how many questions? Not that many left. But there are still some fantastic credits that I want to talk about. There she is. Hurrah! So we're just waiting to connect. There she is. Hurrah, hurrah. So, hello.
Hello. I don't know what. You're like, where are you? I'm here. It's hilarious.
Don't worry.
I'm sorry.
It's not at all. It's a work in progress. So, we there's always something every week to keep me on my toes.
Like I said, my first Instagram, I didn't even realize we had a time limit of an hour.
Well, you're an old pro now. Look, you're just,
See, it's like my first acting experience. I just keep going. Like till somebody stops me.
Right. So,
all right,
we are going to carry on.
Okay.
With your next huge film, which was Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Of course, with George Clooney and the amazing John Turturro, and directed by the incredible Coen brothers. Tell us a little bit about the Coen brothers experience.
Well, that was fantastic. I mean, I was huge fan of the Coen brothers and all their movies. So getting that movie was magnificent. So we shot that movie in Jackson, Mississippi. And we actually rehearsed for like a week beforehand. And we shot in the actual river. The actual first wardrobe that they gave me was this antique, like silky period dress. And when we went into the water to try and shoot it, the wake from the water just took the dress and just tore it to shreds and just broke apart. So we had to change wardrobe and get it into a different outfit. But everybody was amazing. John Turturro, a remarkable actor. I mean, he's one of my favorite actors. He's a remarkable actor. People often ask me, like, what did you do to prepare for that role? I was like, I didn't have to really do much, because the way he would look at me, he would just draw me to him, because he was so like mesmerized. He's such a wonderful actor. And then when they yell cut, it's like, oh yeah. So anyway, it's like, they're in there. I'm like, oh, okay.
Wow.
So he has that power, and all those actors were wonderful. George, Tim, all of them were incredible. Just to be part of it was amazing.
And did you did the brothers actually direct together? And
Yes.
how was that as an experience? Because sometimes that can be muddying, or were they very clear?
I think they're very clear. They work flawlessly together, and it's very well thought out, well in advance. I mean, they really plan things out very well, so that when they do start shooting, it just flows. If they maybe want to add something else, and they just like one says this, the other says this, the other says this, and it just goes.
And how long were you in that river for? Because it seemed, I mean, I imagine something like that takes a long time to shoot.
We weren't in the river that long. Those rocks in the river actually are staged rocks. So it wasn't
Oh,
actually yeah, because I remember somebody made a comment about my elbows being dirty, which I thought, how odd. How are my elbows dirty? And then I realized probably because it was on that rock that I was on wasn't real in any case. But um, no, it was an amazing experience. And we were in the river for, I would say, probably most of the day. And then we shot outside, like the dreamy sequence outside. I
yeah.
only think we shot for like a day or two. I can't remember precisely, but we rehearsed for a week to get the timing of everything exact.
Yeah. Did you, that wasn't you singing, was it? You didn't have to do your own singing, or did you?
No. I wish that was my voice. No, but we had to sing because they wanted our voices to look like we really singing,
Yeah.
our vocal cords and mouths and everything like that. But no, that's definitely not my voice. I wish, but just lip syncing.
Well, it remains a really beautiful, very sensual, gorgeous scene, and obviously because the film is based on the Odyssey, and you're the sirens. I mean, it absolutely does what it set out to do. So, amazing thing to have had. And
Yes.
endless stories of George Clooney being a real prankster and lots of fun on set. Was that your experience as well?
Yes, definitely. I remember at one point we were in a car and there was some competition happening at one of the neighboring malls. These people had to stay in the car. For the people who stayed inside their cars for the longest would win like either the car and like shopping for a year or something like that. Yeah. So we would all drive in the car with him and we'd drive around these people who were trapped in their cars for like, we can sing to them as he was driving around. But they weren't allowed to get out of the car to go to the bathroom or anything. So whoever stayed in that car for the longest time won the car and won this. So he was entertaining them by driving around them while they were in that car in their own, I don't know, blood, sweat, and tears, pretty much. It was hilarious. It was very funny.
Well, that's good to know. Good to know that stories like that are true.
Yes.
You followed that up with The Cell, with of course J-Lo, and the amazing Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yes, very indeed.
Weird. It was such a strange film. I remember seeing it at the time and being a bit like, what? And then I kind of watched snippets again this past week, and I was like, oh, it's not as, I think I was so much younger. I mean, it is a weird film, but it was amazingly shot, and it was the director's debut, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It was incredibly shot. It was I think, a masterpiece for its time when he did it, because it was so far ahead of what I'd seen before that was done, and the visuals and the actors and like Vincent D'Onofrio, of course, is amazing. But it was an incredible experience to work with somebody like that, because it was his first venture into making a feature film. And I remember seeing his demo reel, and that itself was so different from anything I'd ever seen that I thought, wow, this movie is going to be amazing. I'm so excited to be part of it. And he really had an unusual reel.
You played Ella Baines, so tell us a little bit about your character.
My character was the mother of a little boy who was in a coma, who Jennifer Lopez's company was working with to try and bring him back from the dream state, and it was I didn't work too long on that. It was only a day or two that I worked on that project, but the people, the quality of it, the detail of the scene, and the attention to detail was amazing. My poor little boy that I had in the scene, he never spoke. So, but it was nice. It was wonderful to just work with all these very, very talented actors and be on set and be part of it and work with J-Lo. Actually, it's funny because J-Lo, many years back when I was dancing here professionally, in Living Color, I don't know if you remember that show, In Living Color. The Fly Girls, and that was when I was still dancing. So, I don't know if we actually crossed paths with that, but I remember auditioning for In Living Color. So I knew her from that before she became J-Lo that she is today.
Right. Yeah. Amazing. I mean, and again, another thing to have, what a wonderful thing to have on your very interesting and diverse CV. And of course, it was Barry Sonnenfeld that kind of popped back into your life, and because he wrote a project called Secret Agent Man, where you played the arch villain Prima, who I mean, she looked utterly, utterly delicious. So tell us a little bit about filming that show and who Prima was.
That was probably one of my favorite villains I ever played. She was exactly like you said. She was just a delicious character, just like a juicy villainess is what I would term her as, because she had the sophistication and kind of sass and just manipulative as can be. And we shot that in Vancouver as well. So, and again, it was a very big production. So we had access to the most beautiful wardrobe and locations. And I loved the character because she was again, trying to break away from the normal, wanted to start her own company, you know, her own spy organization. I always seem to play these characters who want to break away from the norm. So I loved the variety that she had, and I loved that she did get to come back so many times, you know, as this the villain who never dies.
Yeah. And I loved also that the lines, the dialogue was absolutely everything you want from a villainess, because she was sassy, very sexy, bad, real badass, but also kind of utterly in control. Was that in the writing, or did they, as they got to know you, kind of adapted more for you, or was that right there in the script from the get-go?
I think the script was very well written. I think the dialogue was pretty much like that. I remember I had a little bit of influence, say in one section with the tiger on the on my thigh, because she always gets blown up and she always managed to escape. So I said she should be like a cat with 9 lives. And then I thought it'd be nice to have like a tiger like tattoo, you know, one scratch like 1 life off on my thigh. But so I had a tiny bit of input on that, but the writers did it all. It just really, it was on the page. When it's on the page, it's very easy to play the character because it's so well written. The dialogue is so smart. When the dialogue is intelligent and witty, it's effortless to act it. It's really hard to act in a movie that has bad dialogue or script. It's really hard to make a bad dialogue movie, look good. You know?
Yeah. And it's always interesting. People often say, like, you know, just taking an extreme example, but like Shakespeare, people say, oh, it's so hard to learn. I'm like, no, because it's so well written. And anything that is well written as an actor is so much easier to say truthfully. When it's badly written, as you said, that's the challenge, to make it look good and realistic.
Absolutely. There should be like awards for making bad movies look good, because that is far more challenging in my than getting an award for an excellently written script that is flawless and easy to execute. You know, when you get bad material and you're like, okay, I got to try and figure this thing out and make it good somehow. That is a talent.
Yeah, absolutely. I see the lovely Dan Payne has joined us. Hello, gorgeous. So speaking of comedies, your next turn was on another legendary show, but you were on Voyager playing a wonderful French woman called Nathalie Blanc. What did that feel like, stepping onto that incredibly auspicious, legendary show?
Wow, that was nerve-wracking. That was my first entrance into comedy at that level. Yeah. And and it was intense because, you know, you do the table reading and then you step pretty much onto set. And you get 1 or 2 takes, and that was it. You're like, okay, you're gonna walk from here to here. You're gonna say you're live, and because it's live, you're like, you know, it was. But Kelsey Grammer is so amazing and so gracious and so funny, you know, so easy. You know, I think I started laughing at his nerves, and he was laughing with me in the scene we did. So it worked really well for it, because it was just like that was as far as that's like stepping into Star Trek, but more difficult in the different sense that it's comedy. You have one shot at it and it's live.
Did you enjoy the process of a sitcom, having that the table read and then the kind of camera rehearsals and then the audience being there, or did you find that terrifying?
I like it. I like the live feedback. I like being live because I kind of grew up on a stage, you know, from the ballet and dance background. For me, being on stage, that energy it generates from having a live audience, there's nothing that beats it. You know, sometimes in the movie, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you're dead tired. Now you have your big scene you have to do, and everybody wants to go home. It's very different to film that scene like that, as opposed to being, you are already energized because you feel the audience, and you know you have 1 or 2 takes, and that's it. You know, you got to nail it. You know?
And were they kind of open to you trying things in rehearsal, or again, was it because it's such a well-oiled machine that it was very much like, no, you do this, you do that, da-da-da-da?
Well, I was probably too intimidated to ask anything. I just did whatever they wanted me to do and make sure I did it really well. Okay, I just wanted it to work perfectly because I knew there was 1 or 2 takes, and that was it. So it's nerve-wracking because at that level, when you hear them over the speaker rolling, okay, we're doing it stage. If you fall, you just got to pick yourself up and keep going. So yeah, no, I probably did exactly what they wanted me to
do. But it's a fabulous part of history to be a part of, that show. And I was reading yesterday that there are rumors that it might come back. So who knows?
Wow,
who
that's
knows?
Amazing. Yeah, no,
Natalie,
look, it's
like
legendary.
To be able to come back.
Lovely, yeah. Lovely. Yeah, it'd be lovely. It'd be incredible.
Your next job after that, you worked with Stargate alumni Corin Nemitz in Mosquito, which I have to say looked quite intense. And there's an incredible scene though where you're turning into a mosquito, and like you had some funky prosthetics. So I wondered, like, that process, how long you were in the hair and makeup trailer, and like the bit when you're getting the wings. I mean, it's quite like, talk us through that a little bit.
Okay. Well, doing the prosthetic makeup took forever. It was a long time because I had the arms, I had the face, everything had to be sculpted. Parts of it was just glued on, and then all the other stuff was painted in, especially in the arms and the body. But luckily it was just the face and the arms. The most difficult part for me with the prosthetics was the contact lenses, because I needed to wear these enormous red contact lenses, and if I tell you the thing is the size of your eyeball, it's like this big. It actually touches all the way around the top and the bottom. I could feel it like close. When I saw it, I was like, you're joking, I cannot possibly fit that in my eye. Because it touches all the way around, you can feel it. But I got it in there, and you know, and I thought I wouldn't be able to see, but I could see, and it worked pretty well. And after a while you start feeling like a mosquito, and then acting with the where you're transforming and morphing again. I think that whole process, I drew more on my experience as a dancer for morphing and using body and stuff like that. And that's where having a dance background is really useful, you know, as an actor, because a lot of the characters you play aren't normal. I mean, who transforms into a mosquito? Well, I don't know, maybe the coronavirus.
You.
Corona mosquito.
Exactly. The sequel.
The sequel, Corona. I don't know.
Tsetse Corona fly.
Tsetse Corona fly. Yeah, but it was a lot of fun, and you know, and then I had to do all the stunts, and then at one point we shot in a abandoned subway, and we had all the stuntmen there where I get dragged across the floor of the subway, where I physically got dragged across the floor of the subway. I had like padding in, and then they hoisted me up into the air, but I had one arm holding onto this thing, and they hoisted me up, and I was literally dangling by one arm, and I was like, hello, I'm not really
a mosquito.
I'm like, wow, it was insane, but it was fun. It was.
Where did you shoot that?
In Budapest, Bulgaria. In Sofia, Bulgaria. Again.
Yes. So also there's the language barrier as well that you have on set. A bit like
that's exactly what happened. Yeah, I don't think the word stop was the same. Yeah. Like, stop, no, don't pull me any higher. My
Well,
arm, it's not going to stay in the socket.
exactly. Like, look, I am versatile, but
Yes, I
there are
know.
limits.
I know. Yes,
Um,
exactly.
well, you are versatile because you followed that up, acting opposite like major heavyweights, Will Ferrell and Robert Duvall in Kicking and Screaming. Is that right? Is that the right? Have I got the right
Yes,
title?
yes,
Yes.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Where you played the trophy wife to Robert Duvall, and I just wondered, sort of like, what a set was like with Will Ferrell. Was there lots of laughter?
Wow, it's so funny you say that. It was not. He's actually more serious than I think most people will. Maybe it's just around me, or I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I think comedians are actually more serious than people think. You
Yeah.
know, the comedians are actually more serious people than the non-comedians. The dramatic actors are usually funny, and the comedians are really very serious. And yeah, he was funny. He did some funny stuff, but you know, I was thinking it was going to be. I mean, he's an amazing person. He's very nice. He's very kind. He was very nice to be and to work with. But yeah, no, he was more subtle than I thought he would be. Put it that way.
I think you're absolutely right. So often it's comedians, I think, really struggle with this notion of like, oh my God, you're funny, so be funny all the time.
Exactly.
And often there's a history of they're actually very introverted, quite shy.
Yes.
Yes. I'd read somewhere that he works incredibly methodically. And I wondered if you were witness to that at all, or if like he and Duvall have a set way of working, or was it just kind of like, yeah, block the scene, shoot?
Well, there was a lot of stuff happening with that movie that influenced how the movie worked and how things panned out. So my experience with him was we kind of had things blocked out, you know, and of course Robert Duvall is epic, legendary. To been working with him was just amazing.
Were you intimidated by that at all, or were you just like, oh, hello, I love this?
Well, you know, I loved it. You know, I did. I mean, it is intimidating to work with him, of course. Duvall, how could you not be intimidated being on set next to him? But again, I was so amazed that I even got the role, that I was just so happy to be there. It was easy, but I try to learn as much as I can from working alongside him, because he's an incredible example of excellent acting. Yeah, you know, real powerhouse.
In more recent years, you've got to do such an amazing variety. Well, throughout your career, I mean, you've got to play assassins, a Hawaiian police chief in Hawaii Five-0, a vampire, and then took a turn in a salsa spectacular Shine. And I just wondered, like, what have been the standout moments of your career thus far for you?
As far as what?
Anything.
Well,
what are the things that if somebody had to say to you, you know, whether it's that you're really proud of it, or that you, sorry, I've got such a frog in my throat, whether you overcame something for the role, you know, just something that stands out for you.
I think if I look back on the jobs I did, I mean, definitely working with the Coen brothers was definitely something. It was a dream to be part of that. Working with Barry was a dream. And of course, working with Robert Duvall. These are epic artists to be working with, and for me, those were probably the standout experiences I've had. As far as the roles I've played, maybe those were not my favorite roles I've ever played, because they were kind of smaller. There were other roles that I really enjoyed playing that never really went anywhere, as far as, you know, they're not big epic movies. But definitely meeting and working with A+ artists and directors, that was, I'd say, the top.
Who help you raise your game.
Yeah, it really, you know, just having that opportunity and getting in that door. Yeah. Because that's the hardest part.
So what was your favorite role? Because you were saying, I mean, do you have a favorite role?
Well, one of the roles I liked, I loved Under the Hula Moon, which is one of the earlier movies we ever did, which is a little
Yes.
wacky comedy. I actually like comedy a lot. I really enjoy comedy. I don't tend to play comedy very often, but that's one of my favorite genres. And that, and then a little movie called What's Up, Scarlet, and Breaking Point. Those three movies I liked because they were different from all the other characters, which I'd kind of fallen into doing more often than the
Yeah.
others, like the villain or the action person. You know, this was more characters that had a full arc, and I liked that. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. I remember when Under the Hula Moon came out. I loved it. And I was watching that the other day, and I was like, you're fantastic in it. Because you're like this very, very perky reporter. You're very
I can't believe you even saw that. You can't
yes.
find that movie anymore.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Oh, honey, I went digging.
You surely did, girl. Wow. No, it's amazing. I'm like, wow, you found that movie? Yeah, so that was fun. You know, it was a fun experience to have this crazy character and do comedy. I like that because I like comedy.
Yeah, me too. You've just recently remarried, and you seem to be in such a great place in your life. And you're teaching Qigong. Is that how you say it?
Qigong, yes. Yes, I teach Qigong, which is...
What is it exactly?
Well, Qigong is like an ancient system of energy medicine. It's been around for over thousands of years. And Qi just means energy and Gong means skill. So it just literally refers to the skillful gathering, circulating, and applying this life force energy in your body. So it's really an energetic healing modality that helps you to pretty much heal your body and heal your body from numerous ailments, and especially assist your body, and it goes more to the underlying symptoms or causes than addressing just your symptoms. So I like it. I learned the hard way how to heal myself because I was going to have spinal fusion if I didn't. And I avoided spinal fusion with using Qigong methods, which, I had a huge herniated disc. I lost my tricep, everything, and they wanted to fuse my spine, and I didn't want to do it. So I was studying Qigong at the time. And because of that, I managed to save myself from spinal surgery. So I know what it can do. I love it. I love sharing it. And it's simple and anybody can do it. That's what I like. It's very empowering.
And you're teaching a class coming up soon, aren't you?
Yes, on August 4th, I'm doing a 4-week class. It's called Awaken the Healer Within. So anybody who's interested, please go to my website. You know, it's swimmingtigerqigong.com. It's Qigong. And and sign up. You will learn some very simple but very powerful tools that you can help yourself with in your daily life that'll help you have more energy and feel better.
Great. Well, I will sign up for sure. Just before we hand over to questions from everyone else, I was just wondering, like, what would you love to do next? I mean, obviously, once things are safe and the world resumes again, like, what is on Musetta's bucket list?
On my bucket list would be, I would love to do a period movie. I've never done a period movie, like, you know, the full on, like, pick a time period.
Yeah.
You know, I really want to do a period movie, really gritty period movie. That I have always wanted to be doing, and that's been on my bucket list for a while, and hopefully one day that will come about.
It will. Let's make that happen. A bodice ripper corset. Oh, Mr. Darcy.
French Renaissance. Yeah, it'd be wonderful. Yeah, it'd be really nice.
Exactly. You would be amazing. There's actually a show called Harlots, which is all sort of set. I don't actually know the exact century, but it's fantastic. And it's on Hulu, I think. And it's Hulu, not Hula.
Yeah, Hulu.
Hulu, and it's so good.
Really?
Check that out. And it's sort of like about courtesans and women in the kind of like 18th, 19th century, all the brothels and, you know, ladies of the night.
There's so many good shows out there. There's so many projects, so many good shows.
Exactly.
Yeah,
well, thank you so much for spending so much time with us, sharing your amazing wisdoms, your love of travel, and your incredibly interesting and varied career.
Oh my gosh.
I've had a ball. but I do have some questions from some fans.
Oh,
So,
well, thank you first of all for having me, and I'm sorry we went over time.
Not at all. Thank you so much for staying on. And I think that definitely it seems an hour is impossible to fit everything in, because especially when people have such an amazing body of work, you know. So thank you.
Oh gosh,
so
thank you.
This comes from Claire Cowan, who says, a close friend's husband was also from Durban, and they became South African professional Latin American champion dancers 1971 to 1981 and taught in Durban. What was it like teaching ballet dancing in Durban, and which dancing studio did you use?
Okay, so my mom was the ballet teacher, and we had a studio. We had a studio, I believe it was on Musgrave Road. We had a very big studio in Durban, and then when we moved to Westville, which is where we moved next in South Africa, in Durban, and you know, in the suburbs there, we had a ballet studio at our home. So my mom taught ballet from our home, and I studied and taught there and practiced there. I didn't go into teaching a lot, because at that point when I got my certification to become a ballet teacher, I also had an opportunity to take over another studio. I just started my career, and then I also wanted to go overseas. So I chose to really refocus and go into, I wanted to be in front of the camera. I wanted to dance in TV shows. I wanted to act. I always wanted to act, sing, and dance since I was little, you know. So decided not to go into the teaching at that point. I didn't think my life was going to pan out to the fact that I was going to move here one day and not teach ballet at all, you know. So yeah, I taught a few classes here and there, but then I stopped.
I just see a lady's jumped on saying, I would be that dancer. Oh my gosh. Lynn, so we taught in Glenwood and Musgrave. So did you teach with Musetta's mum? That's hilarious.
Yeah. Who am I looking at? Lynn. Wow. Yeah, exactly. Musgrave Road. Wow. Yeah, it is a very small, very small world. Yeah. My mom was there, and then up at the house in Westville, which is wonderful, because, you know, I come home from school and then I go right to the garage, which was the studio, and I would do my ballet in the afternoons.
Yeah. Right. So you've already answered that. Somebody had asked what it was like working with George Clooney, but I think we've covered that. What was your favorite moment on Stargate?
My favorite moment on Stargate. Yes. My favorite moment on Stargate was probably when I stepped through the portal, because I love them Stargates. So I that first scene where I walk in through that was probably because it just was such an empowering feeling, you know, and it was so nice. This was my first introduction into the whole cast and the crew. So that was my probably favorite moment. That and then the experiences I had with Chris Judge, who is a prankster of epic proportion. That's right up there.
We love him. What was it like being recognized somewhere for the first time?
Weird. It's weird because sorry, I've got so many things popping in here. It's weird because you don't think of yourself as somebody who somebody else might recognize, because people feel like they know you when they see you on a show, especially if it's a popular show. And sometimes people talk to you about, you remember when you said X, Y, and Z on this show? And you're like, I think so, because it's so long ago, you know. But I love it. I like it. I like meeting all the fans. I love meeting people. So between that and traveling, it's very enjoyable. But now today, my hair blonde, people don't recognize me anymore, which is nice.
It's so great. And so do blondes have more fun, Musetta? That's what I want to know.
You know, blondes, it's a very different dynamic. It really is a different dynamic. It really is. It's bizarre, but having more fun, I don't know. Yeah, I think people perceive you a little differently when you're blonde than when you have jet black hair. You know, they perceive you as a little easier to approach than when you have black hair and you look like
Yeah.
you're gonna rip their throat out. Because you have this intense look. You can have the same look with blonde hair. They're like, yeah, she's a little edgy.
It looks great, both colors. So final question I'm going to ask is, where did you meet your husband and where did you get married?
Oh, okay, wow. Okay, this is not a short answer, okay? So it comes back, it comes back full circle to when we were in, talking about destiny makes people meet. It's such a long story. I don't even know where to start. I can tell you it was a fated meeting because I had changed schools in my final year and moved from Durban to Johannesburg. And I was in this brand new school. I didn't know anybody. And one lunchtime, my eye caught this boy across the courtyard. And we would stare at each other and smile at each other, you know, and like shyly. And we were shy to speak to each other. We never spoke to each other, never. Okay. One day I think I walked past him in the hallway and went, hi. And that was it. Fast forward, I can't even tell you how many years has gone by because it just gave away my age, but no, a long time later, like I get a random text and I'm on my way to South Africa. I'm in London. I'm sitting at Heathrow Airport. I get a random text from this guy. I don't know who it is with this saying, oh, I think you might want this photograph. And it's a photo of me on a headshot, a headsheet from Network Models. I don't remember Network Models, all the girls and all the guys, all the models on the picture. Okay. And I said, wow, where did you find this? This is like from 1981 or something. He goes, well, I'm on the bottom page. And I'm like, and I'm looking there and I don't know who this is. And I'm scrolling through the Facebook feed to find who this man is. Because here I'm looking at this adult man, never seen this person before. And I didn't even know how we became Facebook friends, but I must have accepted him somehow. And then I see a picture of him when he was like 18 and in the army. And I see these blue eyes and I'm like, and I never forgot his eyes. And I'm sitting in Heathrow and I text him, I go, I'm sorry, this is going to seem like a really weird question, but did we? The school courtyard? And he goes, yeah, we did. And that was it. And I said, I'm on my way to South Africa. I'm just coming there to come and see my family. You know, if you're available and free and not married, then maybe we can have a coffee. And that was it. That was just destiny. Because yeah, there's no other way. I mean,
that story.
Yeah, it was absolutely unbelievable. And it still is. It's wild. There's no other way we would have met.
Oh, I love that. It's the way I met my husband is a very similar thing, which I'm not going to go into now because we've kept you long enough, but exactly that. And I love how tonight has been about destiny and seizing those moments. And you said such a beautiful thing earlier, cosmic, what did you call it? A cosmic a
cosmic calendar, cosmic appointment, a karmic appointment book. You have a date with destiny.
I absolutely love that. And I hope that you and I can have a real date, not just with destiny, but a real date and a proper catch up when all this madness is over. In the meanwhile, thank you so very, very much for your endless time and being so gracious and sharing your wonderful stories with us and sharing a little bit about your career and your life.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me and for taking the time. And I apologize again for making you go half an hour longer than normal.
Not at all.
Anyway, so lovely seeing you.
Likewise, and not an apology at all. My God, it's a treat, an absolute treat. So
likewise.
Thank you and have a wonderful afternoon.
You too. And thanks for everybody joining.
Lots of love to you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Guys, I will see you next week with Paul McGillion. I was like, who am I with next week? So yes, I will see you guys next week with Paul McGillion. Thank you for saying that about the research. I really appreciate that. Make sure Amanda Tapping asked Suanne how she met her husband. Well, I could tell you guys now because I guess we've got a little bit of time. Do you guys want to hear, or is everybody just like, God, get off, we need to go to bed? So I'll tell you what, we'll leave it for another day, I think. But thank you very much for joining and see you guys next week. And I'm so glad we were able to make it work and that Musetta was able to stay on for a little while. Have a wonderful evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are. Sending you all lots of love. Mwah. See you next week.